And welcome back to Late Night Lately, the Late Night Show. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the Late Night Show. I refrained from saying the word recap, but that's essentially what it is. Recap podcast for the podcast, for the website, cpluscomedy.com. Like it says, the website. Go there. Episode 58. 58 episodes of this. 60 some odd episodes of LinkedIn Logs, the Jobs podcast, and 300, almost 400 episodes of the Constitutionals and the Entertainment Business News podcast. And yet I'm still making mistakes. As I was setting up this episode, it's a very light week on late night, but also two stories happened, so I get to cover those things. It's a very light week, but I was looking at, I have this Notion page, my notes that are set up, the rundown for Late Night Lately and LinkedIn Logs and the Constitutionals, and I used to write monologue jokes for this show, and it became a little too hard. I'll go back to it at some point, but I still have the section where it just says monologue on it. Anyway, let's get to this week in late night. We had a lot of people who were gone. I believe Seth Meyers will be off for 2 weeks, and Stephen Colbert's show is off. And if Stephen Colbert's show is off, then you know After Midnight is off. However, I'm going to turn myself down because I am loud. We do have John Oliver's Last Week Tonight hanging on, as well as The Daily Show. They came back after taking a week off. Mulaney's show is on. They'll be on for 12 weeks straight, so there'll be at least one show for me to watch. Although I won't be talking about it. I made a new rule. Now that Mulaney's show is on, I made a new rule. If there's less than, how many shows are there? There's After Midnight, Late Show, Late Night, Tonight Show, Kimmel, Mulaney, and John Oliver. I don't watch anything else after that. If 4 of those shows are off at the time, then I won't do anything. So I think that's a good steady line. Also, if I can't find a story. Let's get on with it. Last Week Tonight, and this is new. I'm adding Last Week Tonight into the fray. Last Week Tonight, John Oliver talked about sports betting, and he covered. I'm going to mute it. He covered all of the issues surrounding. This is what his show does. All the issues surrounding sports betting, but also how easy it is and accessible it is for people who are addicted to sports betting. If you've never seen stories about how easy it is, how people can get addicted, I mean, go check it out. Go check out any story talking about sports betting at all. Go watch an episode of The Simpsons because Marge has a betting addiction. It's very true. That's something that they started in the episode where the casino comes to Springfield, and then it's revealed she has a sports bet, has a gambling problem rather, and then it's brought up even now, 30 some odd years later. I love The Simpsons. I watch it every single day. That's not a joke. That's not hyperbole. I watch it every single day. And it's an excellent story. There you go. This week on The Daily Show, obviously John Oliver came back. He talked to Senator Chris Murphy. Jordan Klepper took over hosting this week, and there was appearances by Troy Iwata and Lewis Black. I think everybody, and Michael Costa. I think everybody's on vacation. I think it's because of spring break. Everybody's on vacation, or spring break season. Everybody's on vacation. But Michael Costa had a great piece with. It was St. Patrick's Day, so he had a great piece with Irish Trump supporters, and they had a parade, I guess, in New York, which is, I like to mash up so many ththings. And oh God, it's sickening to see. But I'm linking to a clip from a Klepper episode featuring Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson. Ezra Klein is a wonderful opinion piece writer who is currently at the New York Times. He has a great podcast. that I at this point I think is daily, and somehow he has things that are planned out and written out, or at least they sound written out. But oh man, it's good. And he and Derek Thompson wrote a book about oh god, it's called Abundance, which is talking about the affordability crisis and building and making more of what we need, like building more homes and things like that. And Derek Thompson is so engaged in every interview I've seen or heard him in the past week and a half. This man is just like in it, talking about this book that he and Ezra co-wrote. And it's a fantastic interview, and you guys should check it out. Now, moving on to Everybody's Live with John Mulaney. Somehow Netflix is still not listening to me. And they don't have a Everybody's Live separate YouTube channel. They're still uploading everything to separate Netflix channels. I know there's at least one on Netflix as a joke, a clip from Everybody's Live. There might be something on the Netflix proper YouTube channel, but the one I'm linking to, the clip I'm linking to, is the only clip that's available from this episode, from this week's past episode, and it's on the Still Watching Netflix YouTube channel. I know what it would take to maintain another YouTube channel. It won't be that much. If I can do my personal one, that it just has videos from my portfolio, as well as C Plus Comedy, they can allot their social team to take care of one more channel. And I think that's what, in order for this show to be what Netflix wants it to be, they're going to have to give it outside support. In the same way that I can go to the Netflix app right now, pop it open, and see games featuring the Stranger Things characters. I can see the Electric State Kid Cosmo game. If you're watching the video, I'm holding my phone up to the camera, and this is a recently added game. If I can see that, then you can for sure set up a separate YouTube channel with clips, and by clips I mean literally just the episode chopped up into 10-minute pieces. Here's one for callers. Here's one for an interview with the guest this week. Here's one for a second interview with the guest this week. Here's one for the musical guest. Anyway, John ends up hanging up on a caller because the person just keeps talking, and it's a funny situation. That is, I will say, this week's past episode of Everybody's Live was what I don't read reviews, so I only saw headlines, but most of the headlines I saw was like the show is a chaotic mess or glorious, like they said it positively, but they ended up calling it chaotic or messy. This week was the only out of Everybody's Live in LA and Everybody's Live with John Mulaney, out of the 7 episodes that have aired thus far, 8 episodes, right? Because 6 and then 2, yeah. So out of the 8 that have aired in total of this series, this happens to be the messiest because the camera movements were so sloppy and everything. But they also had 3 different music performances, and the first 2 culminated in a Sonic Youth reunion to play. It was fantastic. If you're into that type of music, yeah. All right, now on to Jimmy Kimmel. He had people like Danielle Brooks and Bert Kreischer and Aaron Paul and Adam Schiff, the senator, and Adam Scott, and it was Rachel Zegler, and it was just a nice solid week. I hit the mic. That's how solid it was. But Jason Momoa is the one I'm linking to. He's just such an affable person. I enjoy, and Lauren Graham. He's such an affable person, and I enjoy seeing him. And it was nice to. Just the audience was just so happy. I mean, for the audience on Monday, they got a great show. Rachel Zegler, Jason Momoa. They got that monologue that people love to watch. That sounded like it was a slight. They have the monologue. I like to watch it as well. Just saying, the monologue's there. And Rachel Zegler performed the song from Disney Snow White. So there you go. And then finally, Nick Thune. Oh, hold on. Let me talk about everybody else. I have to do this. Michael Shannon, Leslie Bibb, Jonathan Rumi. Let's see. John Legend, Bill Burr, Ava Longoria, Cat Williams, which was such a surprise to see him on the show. Stephen Graham. Dove Cameron performed the song. Wow, good for her. And Selena Gomez, Benny Blanco, and Elizabeth Olsen, and Bob Mould, which was very interesting for me to sit down and watch The Tonight Show, and then it'd be like Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco, Elizabeth Olsen, and Bob Mould performed. It was like, that's not the audience for this. No offense to Bob Mould and no offense to the audience, but those two things don't jive. Oh my gosh, Bob Mould is a great guitarist. Check him out. Anyway, Nick Thune did stand up, and he brought out his guitar, and it was wonderful. I think Nick Thune's a very funny guy. So yeah. All right, let's move on to. Actually, I'm going to switch these around. Let's move on to the first topic. This comes from Elizabeth Blair over at NPR. Comedians will celebrate Conan O'Brien at the Kennedy Center on Sunday. Will they take on Trump? Now, the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor, this is possibly the last time it'll be given out, but it's going to Conan O'Brien. At one point, it went to Jerry Seinfeld. It went to Julia Louis-Dreyfus. It went to Kevin Hart. It went to Will Ferrell. It's gone to a lot of great comedians. A lot of really funny people. This current administration has decided, the leader of this current administration has decided that he's so tired of the woke DEI that things like our American arts are bringing to the forefront of the culture, and he decided to take over the Kennedy Center for himself. Conan was scheduled to take over, or not take over, excuse me. Conan was scheduled to be given this, God, goodness me, like a couple of months ago, I feel like at this point, or maybe even weeks ago, but it was before that had happened. Now, the current administration, the leader of that current administration, decided that it was okay to get rid of the center's board of its Democratic appointees. He ousted the board chair David Rubenstein and president Deborah Rutter, and then became the chair himself. And in response, artists have canceled gigs left and right. Hamilton was supposed to be there. I know that in 2026. Others have. W. Kamau Bell is still going to go. He said, God, what did he say? Because he told it to NPR, and I had to find it myself, or I had to read it myself. Anyway, Kamau has a really important, who also hosted a late night show on FX at one point. He decided to stay, but are people going to show up? I believe I read a headline this morning that said Catherine O'Hara was supposed to receive the award, and then she said no, and then Conan was the next choice. It's interesting what Elizabeth Blair writes here, in that she harkens back to. I'm gonna stop saying big words. I'm too stupid to use these words. She references back to Jon Stewart when he received it in 2022, when he talked about when we talked about the rise in authoritarianism around the world, which ironically now is just like, it's crazy that we have an authoritarian leader who says they're not doing things I want. It's about me now. Stewart said that authoritarians threaten comedy and other art forms, and that democracy is, quote, fragile and precious. And the way to guard against it isn't to change how audiences think, it's to change how leaders lead. Dave Chappelle accepted it in 2019. He talked about how stand-up is a uniquely American genre, partly because of the First Amendment. In 2017, David Letterman ended his acceptance speech with a quote from Mark Twain: "Patriotism is supporting your country all the time and your government when it deserves it." The show will be taping on Sunday. At some point, it'll stream on Netflix. I believe when Kevin Hart accepted his, it aired on Netflix, not live, but at one point they were on Paramount Plus, but you can't see those. The Sum of All Fears is recommended to me on Netflix, if anybody's wondering. Also, the movie Faster and One More Shot, starring Scott Adkins and Michael Jai White. The one of the only few times I use Netflix is when I'm on the exercise bike or the treadmill. And I just need something on to counteract Peloton because I don't want to pay attention to some of the things they talk about all the time. What was I looking for? Mark Twain. All right, so I look for Mark Twain. The Conan thing is already up there. It says coming 2025. I assume that it'll be a live to tape thing, and maybe it'll be here sooner than later. Sooner rather than later. But Kevin Hart's was 2024, yes, and that one was an hour and 19 minutes. Yeah, I remember when they were uploaded when they were on Paramount Plus. Anyway, but will people show up? Will people be willing to address what's in front of them at this point in time? I think so. I think this is going to be the last hurrah for the Mark Twain Prize for the Kennedy Center, because next year it's probably going to be, fucking gut-filled to get the Mark Twain Prize. Oh my gosh. Andrew Scholes or somebody like that. Theo Vaughn. All right, and this final bit comes from Catherine Van Arendonk over at Vulture. John Mulaney's Playhouse, in his new live talk show, the comedian is allowed to do whatever he wants. What exactly is that? This is a chronicling of what's happening, what the lead up to, and the first week, I believe, of Everybody's Live with John Mulaney. I'm just gonna say Catherine because I could not remember her last name for the life of me. Catherine does a very lengthy profile talking about, good Lord, talking about what happens with creating Everybody's Live. Now, Netflix is allowing the reason the show is around because Mulaney wanted a late night show, and Netflix said, okay, well, just drop the LA focus, and they're going to tackle all different kinds of things. Now, they talked to the writer's room, and Mulaney had, quote, the funniest call with Netflix. He says to the writers, I'm sorry, I had to find that quote. Netflix had learned that the premiere's guests would be Fred Armisen and Joan Baez, and it was worried that the show hadn't booked talent that would make the premiere buzzy and exciting. Typically, when a late night show begins, you want to have the biggest person you possibly can. Late Night with Seth Meyers had Amy Poehler and I think Joe Biden. If you remember Fallon's Jump to the Tonight Show, that had not only a big first day, it had a big week. I don't remember Conan on TBS. I don't remember that because I'm talking about things that I was around for the launch of. Colbert's first week was pretty exciting, and Corden's was very, very big because we didn't know who this guy was. But again, it takes time for these things to be filled out. However, Netflix doesn't give itself that time. Back to the article. This is not the show we sold, Mulaney describes an unnamed executive saying. This is not the show we sold. You stupid executive. It was great to see someone kind of apoplectic. Apoplectic. What does that word mean? Overcome with anger, extremely indignant. Apoplectic. Thank you. Like, oh honey, do you know what you bought? And then they go, we don't even understand what this rundown means. I'm like, yeah, you think you'll feel better when I explain telescope murder? If I walk you through that it's a body double parody, you'll feel better about the spin. That's so funny. As Mulaney describes the call, the writers laugh, but they also consider the note about booking buzzier talent. Langston Kerman is a writer on the program, and he asks what name would actually be big enough. Mulaney says no one knows. It's I think the people who are going to be watching Everybody's Live with John Mulaney, one, it airs at 10 p.m. live on the East Coast. Meanwhile, it's 7 p.m. on the West Coast. That's such an odd time. It's not quite prime time for audiences anywhere. Well, prime time is 8 to 10, right? Yeah. Let's see what prime time is. Prime time broadcast. I think prime time 7. All right, here it is. This is from Google AI, which is sourcing back to Wikipedia. In broadcast television, prime time refers to the hours with the largest audience. Yes, typically 8 to 11 p.m. or 7 to 10 p.m. on Sundays. Okay. Also, that does not apply anymore. I would say Monday to Thursday, that's prime time. There's outside of football season on Sundays, there's nothing. Saturday and Friday, that's gone. So Monday to Thursday. Anyway, the people aren't going to be necessarily tuning in, and especially they won't be doing so if they know they can come back to Netflix and watch it later. The one thing I'll say against that is I have YouTube TV, and I record. If I'm watching SNL, I don't watch it on Peacock, even though I have Peacock. I watch it on YouTube TV, skip through the commercials. Why? Because the greatest things could happen live. Case in point, the last thing that happened live on SNL was during the 50th when you heard Eddie Murphy say, "This motherfucker." It's like, oh my God, Eddie Murphy cursed. I think it's hilarious. It is. And then also watching the SNL music concert special for that weekend on the 50th. Watching that on Friday night for 3 and some change hours was amazing. And you can go back on Peacock and rewatch those things, but to experience it at that point in time, it's like watching us watching sports live. You know how often I watch a lot of sports. Watch a lot of golf now because since the Mavericks have decided to shit the bed this season, I said no more. I said no more basketball. I think I'm done. So I watch a lot of golf, watch basketball, watch football. Only pros. I don't watch college because those are children, and I don't need to ruin my life because somebody doesn't have a good game. I'm sick of people who watch college sports. But oftentimes, the only time I watch a game or a match after it has happened is because it was the middle of the night on a Monday or Tuesday or whatever, or Sunday. And then I fall asleep and I can go back the next morning while I'm on the bike, while I'm on the treadmill, while I'm doing whatever, and just finish out the game. The thing is, though, to come back and watch a live event 2-3 weeks after it happened, who's going to Hulu right now and saying, I have to watch the Oscars. I gotta watch the Oscars. I gotta see who won. That's not there are people who are doing that, but that's not necessarily something that happens with everybody. Once after this award show, after a game has aired, it's pretty much done. I would love to see the live plus same day ratings for. No, I want to see the live plus 7-day ratings for the Super Bowl. Hey, it's got a great tail on it. Another 10 million people watched. That following Saturday? Oh my gosh. But so all that to say, people who are going to watch this show are watching it for Mulaney. Like if anything, that's late night in a nutshell. If you watch Kimmel, you're not watching it because Jason Momoa and Rachel Zegler are on it. You're watching it for Kimmel. You want to see more often than not, you want to see that monologue, that 14-minute monologue at the top of the show, because he's doing something that you like him doing. He's making fun of our bitch baby vice president and things of that nature. You want to see Stephen Colbert do what I assume he would call smart comedy. And his lack of awareness when talking to his band leader / sidekick. Again, not Conan. Stephen Colbert, I don't know if you've ever spoken to a black person in your life. He's just so indifferent the way he talks to these band leaders. Anyway, when I'm going. The only time I would, I definitely understand the idea. Oh, I'm going to watch the Late Show with Stephen Colbert because he talked to Gary Oldman for 40 minutes. I understand that, but in the end, you're watching that show for that host. Even for after midnight, chances are, besides the small number of people who were just like, I want to see what this new show was about, you knew who Taylor Tomlinson was. You don't watch late night to not see Seth. Like, oh, I can't wait for John Lutz to do his his branded spot. That's not a knock on John Lutz, but the thing is, you're going to these shows to watch a closer look. You want to see Fallon do busking in the subway with Bad Bunny. Like those are the things you want to see. So people tuning in for Everybody's Live with John Mulaney are looking for A, John Mulaney, B, whatever that live aspect may be, and then C, they will follow in. I'm sure, people are going to fall off in the interim between episode 1 of Everybody's Live and episode 12, and then for that second season between episode 13 and episode 24. But the difference is not going to be that much. People who love Mulaney's stand-up, they love New in Town. They love Baby John. I don't know the rest, but they love those. And they want to see Mulaney do more funny things. Even if it's, quote, raw. I love doing quotes. Heavy quotes. He has a hard time imagining a potential viewer who has no interest in a new Mulaney show, then changes their mind after they hear someone like Tom Hardy is going to be a guest. See, I didn't even read that. I just knew that was going to be coming up. The room starts to move on with a short check-in about how much of a script to send to Morgan's team, Tracy Morgan's team, for his King Latifah appearance. But in the first pause, Mulaney returns to the Netflix call. They said, and Joanne Baez. And I said, it's Joan. The writers chuckle, thrilled and a little alarmed. The show's not good, guys, Mulaney says. That's the thing about the show. It's not like, oh, this is awesome. It's great, but it's not good. Yeah. I read a little piece. There's a Ted Sarandos feature piece in Variety talking about the 20 or so years of Netflix, or 25 years. I don't know. Netflix has been around for a long time. Here's a little thing about me. The Netflix subscription that I currently have is the same one me and my family have had since it was well before there was, I would say like 2007. When did Hulu come out? Whenever Hulu started, I had Hulu. I still have that same account. And we had Netflix. My mom was paying for Netflix because she didn't want to take me to Blockbuster anymore. She didn't want to take me to Blockbuster so I could rent DVDs. VHSs turned DVDs. And then sometimes we would go to Netflix. I'd have Netflix. I have like a DVD coming. And then we'd also I'd trick her to taking me to Blockbuster just to get me to shut up. That's what she would do. That's a very true thing. But yes, Netflix and Hulu. I have a very strong, even though I will chastise Netflix for the longest amount of time. it's the law. It is that, and Hulu wasn't a subscription, but now it is. But those are the two longest subscriptions I've had forever. It's crazy. I think 2008 for Netflix. I think because Hulu was first, and I was watching that on our gateway computer. I was watching shows on our gateway computer, shared gateway computer, slow as molasses. They have a lot of themes that they have planned for the rest of Everybody's Live, and there are things that we'll see. We already seen cruises. They have end of life planning, real ID. If you know what real ID is, it's real IDs when you have to sign up for something and they require your driver's license and they want you to take a picture of it. There's another thing about me. I got a fake job offer, like a very sophisticated fake job offer, and they used real ID. And they tried to open up a Best Buy account with my name and everything. And I already had, A, I already have a Best Buy account, but B, they also tried to open up a credit card. And I already have a Best Buy credit card. And Best Buy was like, why do you need two? And I went, that's not me. Some of the elements of the show, I'm skipping around the article. Some of the elements of the show are straight out of Mulaney's particular obsessions and hangups. The writing staff is happy to make their feelings clear when he pitches an idea they don't think will work for the show. Early on, Mulaney pitched a series of pre-taped sketches meant to mimic only the boring scenes of a Korean historical drama, like two people having a conversation next to a well. They didn't like that, obviously. Mulaney has no plans to stop doing everything else in order to become a full-time weekly late-night host. He's shooting a movie this summer and developing a TV project with his friend, the lawyer and legal scholar Neil Katyal. I don't know how to pronounce that. He's mulling a stage version of his 2019 Documentary Now episode, Original Cast Album Co-op. Oh my God, I hope there is one. He's touring again in August. He has never had so many projects planned in advance, and while he loves doing Everybody's Live, he says, we're not looking to stay on for 30 years. He has a family now. Okay. And, with the way that they tackle topics in this show, I assume that, if he gets 3 or 4 seasons, he'll be fine with this. I do like Everybody's Live, and I think there's a reason for it to exist. And even if it's going to be a short-lived late-night show because of the way that Mulaney and his team are planning it, then so be it. Not everything has to be something that lasts forever. The magic, eye roll, of Last Week Tonight is that this world is fucked up and there's always going to be fucked up things. And that show can last for as long as Warner wills it to. I think it can go on for as long as it needs to go on. And there's no number in mind. The same thing with The Daily Show. The Daily Show can go on forever. Every late night show can go on forever. But once it reaches a half-life, then you have to look at that and go, what's the actual return we're getting on this? And at some point, Mulaney could get tired with Everybody's Live in the same way that Netflix gets tired with shows after 3 seasons. They don't get tired. They just don't want to renew contracts because it costs money. And what happens is this is the world of television. For streaming in particular, casts signed mostly 3-year contracts. If you get put on hold, it could because a network or a streaming platform does. And I'm really just generalizing this. So don't take my word for the Bible. For what's it called? Don't take it religiously. But when a cast and crew and all this, when they're on hold, the streamer, the network, the broadcaster has to pay because they can't. The cast or whomever cannot go out and search for new jobs. But Netflix circumvents this by, we can have you. We'll sign you up for 3 seasons. The 3 seasons you don't know how they do, and then once they get you to once you're like, hey, we're gonna do season 4, they'll go, we think 3 is good. So that's why a lot of shows either get 1 season or 3 seasons. And they can just cancel it outright. Because if they have to sign you for 4, then they have to re-up the contracts. Anyway, listen. That's all I got for you. That's everything that happened in late night. If you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me talk to famous people sometimes. I just recently spoke to Alexander Hodge, where we discussed his show, his starring in a new show called Grosse Pointe Garden Society. It's an excellent show. Did I have to go look it up just now? I did. I do think it's an excellent show, though. I'm not kidding on that. Check it out. Unfortunately, I do believe it was moved to Friday nights, which is not good. But it's a very fun show. If you like Desperate Housewives, then you'll like that show. Check it out. And let's see. If you want to see a video version of that chat, go to youtube.com/C+comedy, where you can see a video version of this show, a video version of the Constitutionals, the Entertainment Business News podcast, and LinkedIn Logs, the Jobs podcast. All that lives on youtube.com/C+comedy. Subscribe to those shows wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on TikTok, Blue Sky, Facebook, and Instagram @C+comedy. Be on those platforms @ChadBlackWhite. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.